Hey, I'm Ira with Robert Randolph. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What makes this so unbelievable to me is that you've really been playing secular music for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And you play the crap out of it.
Yeah.
When did you decide to start playing, non-church music? Well, first of all, when did you start playing church music?
Well, I'm playing church music my whole life. I think it's all sort of gospel music at the end of the day,
Right.
because when we grew up in the church playing all the music that we known, my father, my grandfather, watching them, in church. And then I was a drummer, and I started playing the drums at the age of 5 up until I was about 14, and then I started playing this little thing, And we went from there, and there's a guy that came to our church and saw us play, said we got to start taking this rock and roll thing out there. Because we were a little more rock and roll than what was going on in most churches.
Right.
It was...
And then John Medeski found you, right?
Well, Luther Dickinson actually from the North Mississippi All-Stars.
Right.
They wanted to do it. Actually, it was a tribute record to the history of the music in my church. And so they called me up because they had heard that I've been playing out, which this album called The Word that most people can find. And yeah, it was really like a rock gospel sort of instrumental tribute to the church that I grew up called the House of God Church, and it's all over the U.S.
And so then you went out and played with Luther Dickinson and Medeski with The Word, and you were opening. The family band was actually opening up shows, right? In 2001.
Yeah, we opened up the show for the North Mississippi All-Stars at the Bowery Ballroom, which was the first actual time we played outside of the church. 2001, yeah.
So you got a taste, and you said you wanted more?
Yes. The lifestyle, It's whenever we got a chance to, at the beginning, to go out and you see the smiling faces of everybody out there and are the same music that I grew up playing, it's such a treat to be a part of that and to have that sort of fan interaction. That's how we all get off as musicians and singers and songwriters anyway, to be able to write a piece of music and then, have the fans really enjoy. It's the ultimate vision that we all, seek.
It's kind of weird that We Walk This Road is your third record, and to me, and knowing your music, it seems weird to me that you're confined to this, 80 minutes on a record, 5 minutes for a song.
Yeah.
Is it tough for you? Is it tough for the process to sit in a studio and come up with tunes? Would you much rather be playing live?
No, what happens is, and over time too, talking to guys like Eric Clapton and Santana, that's what, there's nothing better than sitting in a studio and composing music and having these ideas shoot back at you. If you look at the history of all the greats, there's nobody in terms of the great, whether it's Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Stevie Wonder, the Stones, Zeppelin. The live versions are always longer anyway, because that's just part of it. It's what happens. But the ultimate high, well, you get both. You have the part where you write, produce, and record the song, right. And then the live version, which always, because when you write and record and producing it, you're just learning it anyway.
Yeah.
And then by the time you played it 100 times already, it just goes 12 minutes, 13 minutes,
Yeah.
And the crowds are cheering you on. So that's sort of where that thing comes from.
Tbone produced this record. What special ingredient did he bring to the table? I mean, you guys have a pretty unique sound already, but what did Tbone bring to the table?
Well, the thing about Tbone is, he really understood gospel, how really American music and really rock and blues, the history of it all comes around. It all came from gospel.
Right.
Those field recordings, early on, those harmonies, which turned into, Blind Willie Johnson and Robert Johnson and, so forth and so on, Clapton and, Hendrix, that's just the history of music.
Right.
B.B. King, Buddy Guy, you can keep naming names. Everybody went to that original music, which is the gospel, early field recording. So Tbone was a guy that understood how to sort of, bring it all together,
right.
And really, if you listen to the record, We Walk This Road, you will see the segues before each song.
Right.
And we put them there to really remind the older people, but also educate the younger people of this is where it comes. These are the original ideas of music, you know. So to get some of these kids today to sort of dive into that, you know.
And you do that live too, right? You play those segues in the live show too, where appropriate.
Yes, sir.
There's a couple covers. You're no stranger to covers. You do covers in your live show all the time. But you know, you covered Dylan and Lennon on this record, and Willie Johnson. So I mean, that's nothing new for you. But why did you select these songs, or Prince even?
Yeah, we all like sort of, you know, we were sitting there and we sit in a studio over time, and maybe I would hear something or Tbone. The Shout of Love thing was Tbone's idea,
Right?
because we sort of wanted to come up with this, you know, guitar meets Dylan again, like how Hendrix sort of claims Watchtower.
Right.
Everybody think it's his song, you know. So we sort of wanted to go down that road, you know, not as great as Hendrix is, but, you know, have people affiliate the song Shout of Love with us, you know, with Robert Randolph and the Family Band. So that's sort of one of the things. The Prince song was my idea. You know, we had, you know, I'd been listening to all these new tunes. Tbone had turned me on to so many other songs and this whole new music library of iTunes music that I hadn't been listening to. So the Prince thing was really my idea. And it just, you know, one day, you know, the John Lennon song was Jim Keltner's idea, the
Right.
drummer. You know, and we just really wanted to compose this record that you know, just had this great message to speak to people about love, happiness, you know. And it was at a time too in the States where, you know, we were all, watching a debate. You know, this was right before Obama got elected and all that. And so a lot of the record was sort of fueled by, you know, the world is really tired of the same old thing. Let's really give people some inspirational messages, but with these great selection of songs.
It is a Robert Randolph and Family Band record more
Yeah.
than, you know, more than your last record. I think the last record took some R&B twists and turns, and I
Yeah.
think that this record's way more back to the roots of why people fell in love with the music you
Yeah,
make.
and that's one of the advantages of working with Tbone. You know, he understands that, you know, how it all sort of flows back together, you know.
If I Had My Way is the quintessential Robert Randolph tune. And how did you get Ben Harper to show up and play on that record?
You know what's strange is we had jammed to that, the loop of the Blind Willie Johnson version, and man, this floor is pretty shiny, man. How do you get that floor like that? You know. Well, what's strange is, you know, we had listened to the Blind Willie Johnson version, and we had jammed. We had this sort of unwritten song for about 8 months. And I called Ben Harper one day, and hey, just come down by the studio, because he lives right down the street from the
Wow.
Village in Santa Monica, California.
Yeah.
And so he came by, and we just started jamming. And then Tbone said, hey, let him check out this Blind Willie Johnson thing that we never finished. And he just went in there and, you know, sang those choruses, you know, and so we wound up rewriting the tune to, you know, with some new lyrics that's sort of current today. And,
Yeah.
But really still having that sort of Blind Willie Johnson signature on it too, but also with Robert Randolph and the Family Band with Ben Harper.
Yeah, there's lots of guests on the record. I mean, aside from Ben, there's Jim Keltner, who you mentioned. How did y'all hook up with him? I mean, legendary drummer, right?
Yeah, I mean, what happened, you know, at this time, you know, my drummer, actually my cousin, he had just got diagnosed with a kidney ailment. So, you know, we was sort of figured out, you know, that let's invite Keltner down. And next thing you know, this record actually turned to be like the cool place to hang, you know, in the studio session, because, you know, you had Jim Keltner coming out, you had Robbie Robertson, you had Steve Jordan, you had all these different songwriters, Doyle Bramhall Jr.,
Yeah.
Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Everybody's just sort of hanging, you know, in the studio, just sort of coming up with the ideas and talking. It just became the place over about 1.5 to 2 years.
Next time that happens, let me give you my email address. I'd love to hang.
Yeah.
That must be crazy for all these musicians to want to hang out, not only with each other, but with you. It must be quite an honor.
Yeah, I mean, people heard that we were sort of diving into all this old music, and everybody
Right.
sort of wanted to chime in, and make this thing happen, you know, which was, it worked out really great, man. It was so much fun, more than anything, to really sort of mesh in these old ideas and then have guys sort of chime in, like Keltner, like song like Shot of Love, you know, he recorded the original version with Hendrix, you know, 30 years ago, whatever it was, so, you know.
Dry Bones is a song that you put together with Tbone, and there are a few other writers, but again, it speaks to being real, like real. I mean, it speaks to the whole era of the music that you do perform, but it's a new original, right?
Well, that's what with a lot of these songs, Tbone just had these ideas that he been really trying to, you know, get other artists over time to listen to this music, you know, and we sort of wanted to have this, you know, the old Dry Bones thing, but really write some lyrics and you know, some ideas around it that bring it current today, you know, to sort of, you know, give you this sort of feeling like, man, wow, you know, this is actually still going on in the world today, you know, man, we need to do something about it.
Let's talk about the live show for just a second, because I think if people haven't checked you out live, they definitely should, because it brings all of this to a much grander scale. I mean, you can listen to it in your headphones and get off, but there's nothing like getting off at a Robert Randolph show.
Yeah.
What about the crowd? The crowd to me it is always surprising to me, the different types of people that come to a Robert Randolph show. Is it surprising to you?
Of course it is, you know. But, you know, it just speaks again, like I said, for the music, you know. It's not really this sort of trendy thing, you know. It's not, well, maybe it is trendy because it's coming back around. It gives the young people, you know, which they love us anyway, but these older people start coming in and get people 60 and 70, like, man, you know. We remember when we used to go to these kind of shows, you know, and listen to these kind of songs. And for us, too, it's still sort of original and it's different than what you see from most bands, the sound, you know. So people really dig it, you know, and they really get into it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
I saw you like 10 years ago at the Horseshoe.
Oh, wow.
And the place was rammed.
Yeah, we drove by there last night. I was like, man, we played this place, man.
You played that place. You tore that building down is what you did that night. I mean, I started to believe in some things that I never thought I'd believe in.
Wow, that's good for you then.
It was a great experience, and we've been a fan ever since. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.